Hello, and thanks for joining us on Encore. Coming up on today's show, we're taking a closer look at the latest cinema releases. Tom Ford's newest film, Nocturnal Animals, a loose biography of Chilean poet Pablo Neruda and the founder, the story of the McDonald brothers and the man who stole their idea.
McDonald's can be the new American church. And it ain't just open on Sundays, boys.
Dicen que Neruda es el comunista más importante del mundo.
Soy perseguido aquí en Chile.
Do you ever feel like your life has turned into something you never intended?
And joining us on set is France 24's film critic extraordinaire, Lisa Nesselson, back on set with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, it's got an intriguing title and a great cast, but is Nocturnal Animals as gripping as we're being led to believe?
Well, it gets off to a spectacular start with arresting, stunningly original images that we actually can't show you on television. They're a little racy. Reading the names of the actors over the opening credits, I got psyched to see some of the very best names in English language film acting on the screen. Back in 2009, I liked Tom Ford's first film, A Single Man, starring Colin Firth, very much. I assumed the planets would be aligned for something thought-provoking and memorable, but Nocturnal Animals is a great title, I'll grant it that, besides just plain sounding cool. It refers to insomnia in a refined character and the heinous behavior by night of some very unrefined characters. The movie alternates between glossy surfaces and rough ones. It's well done, but as denouements go, I sort of wish he had tied the knot tighter before he untied it. Here's gallery owner Susan having second thoughts about, well, her entire life. Let's look.
My ex-husband used to call me a nocturnal animal.
What ex-husband? I didn't know you had an ex-husband. Since when?
Couple of years in graduate school. It's weird. I've been thinking about him a lot lately, and then recently he sent me this book that he's written, and it's violent and it's sad, and he titled it Nocturnal Animals, and he dedicated it to me.
Did you love him?
Yeah, I loved him. He was a writer, and I didn't have faith in him. I panicked and I did something horrible to him, something unforgivable.
Now, Lisa, I get the feeling that you don't like this film very much, but do tell us what it's about first.
That is a good question. What is it about? The original title was Tony and Susan, loosely adapted from a 1993 novel with a story within a story. And if you look at reader comments online, you'll find that a lot of people seem to be angry at this movie. I'm not angry, but I am kind of miffed. This film can be read as a revenge thriller. That was an interesting Freudian slip, a revenge filler, in which revenge is a dish best eaten cold. I'm miffed because this movie should be devastating, and it was starting to vaporize as I was putting my coat on to leave the theater. So Amy Adams plays Susan, who runs a Los Angeles art gallery that specializes in conceptual and mega trendy art. Before he heads to New York on an alleged business trip, Susan tells her hubby Hutton not to worry about the loss of their personal art collection because, quote, I can cover the walls with some LA artists and people will think we're ahead of the curve, not going broke. But Susan may have gone morally bankrupt about 20 years ago earlier, as we learn when a manuscript written by her first husband arrives and she starts reading it. And as she reads it, the characters in it take shape on screen, as they do in her imagination, something a lot of us do when we're reading something. There's genuinely creepy, extended violence, and I have to assume that Tom Ford made precisely the movie he wanted to make because he produced, wrote, and directed, but it didn't do much for me.
All right. Well, also nominated for a foreign language Golden Globe and out in France this week. Moving on to our next film is Neruda. It's also a story within a story, and it's about the Chilean poet.
Well, it is. This is a terrific film that takes emphasis on creative liberties with the rather amazing life of poet Pablo Neruda. It salutes the power of poetry and imagination, both of which one might argue are in kind of short supply in real life right now, but are alive and well on the screen. Interestingly, Jim Jarmusch's excellent Patterson is also about how poetry, writing it and or reading it, is something that makes life better when you incorporate it into your daily routine. You know, who could ask for anything more than to watch Encore? Encore. On France, 24. See how that improves our quality of life. If you avoid poetry like the plague, I actually avoid cliches like the plague. Neruda may still be familiar to you since he was played by the late Philippe Noiret in the very popular Italian film Il Postino in 1994 about the friendship between an Italian letter carrier and the exiled poet. Now here he's played by a very talented dead ringer for the chubby, balding bon vivant who was forced to go underground 3 years after the end of World War II. The president of Chile, whom Neruda has criticized, assigns a dedicated but not overly bright policeman, beautifully played by Gael Garcia Bernal, to track down the renegade poet. We have reason to believe that the policeman is a deliberate figment of Neruda's imagination. What should be deadly pursuit comes across as a merry chase. Let's take a look at a job interview.
¿Conoce usted a Neruda?
Sí, señor.
¿Lee usted poesía?
Poco.
Usted sabe que este país está lleno de comunistas inteligentes. Hablan francés, les gusta construir puentes.
Convengamos que estamos hablando de un hombre obeso que tuvo su primer par de zapatos a los 12 años. Imagínese.
Este hombre para mi campaña se metía la mano al bolsillo, sacaba un papelito, 10.000 proletarios se quedaban callados para escucharlo mientras recitaba poesía con esa voz que tiene. También es verdad que el pueblo de Chile no perdona a sus delincuentes cuando caen presos.
Sí, señor.
Puedo estar tranquilo.
Absolutamente, señor.
Now, Pablo Neruda is not yet 40. He's a prolific filmmaker, and he hasn't made a bad movie yet. He's incredibly talented. This is a very good movie, as is Jackie, about the aftermath of JFK's assassination, which will be coming out here next month. Here we have a manhunt that's sort of like a manhunt if you put Don Quixote in charge of it. Neruda spoke out in favor of communism, but here he keeps running into examples of democracy versus communism that are laugh out loud funny because personal initiative keeps rearing its head. There's much talk of a workers' paradise. Here in France, there's constantly initiatives that make it more and more of a workers' paradise. But back then, that was not looked well upon by the people in power.
Well, of course, if you have a minimum wage job in France, you still qualified for paid vacation and health care, which brings us to our next film, The Founder, which is about one of the planet's major sources of minimum wage jobs, McDonald's. How interesting could the story of a greasy fast food chain be?
This is a fascinating story, and Michael Keaton is terrific as Ray Kroc, the traveling salesman who at age 52 began the process of stealing the ideas of two ingenious, incredibly hardworking brothers named Dick and Mac McDonald, who had a really efficient hamburger stand in San Bernardino, California. Now, Ray had been knocking himself out trying to sell multi-mixers, machines that could make several milkshakes at once from his base in the Midwest.
Different flavors?
Different, sure, I guess, yeah. The McDonald brothers ordered 8 of them, and Ray had to see for himself who could possibly require that many devices to make that many milkshakes at once. So let us catch up with the story.
What is that?
The Golden Arches. It's a way to make the place stand out.
Huh.
There should be McDonald's everywhere. Franchise the damn thing.
Mr. Kroc.
Franchise, franchise, franchise.
Business is war. It's dog eat dog, rat eat rat. I want to take the future. I want to win.
The brothers are your business partners.
Make it go away. I don't care what it takes. That glorious name, McDonald's. I had to have it.
You don't have it.
You sure about that?
Lisa, I get the feeling that this story is very educational.
Is it ever? I think it's good to know how the major brands that surround us got their start came to be. It's hard to believe that they weren't always there, but McDonald's, Disney, Hershey's Chocolate, these are just a few of the empires that could just as easily have failed. Ray Kroc's autobiography, Grinding It Out, written in 1977, is mind-blowingly self-centered and full of odd pearls of wisdom. For example, there is a common fallacy that money will solve problems. It won't. Money creates problems, and the more you have, the bigger the problems, not the least of which is how to spend it wisely. Watching this entertaining but disturbing story unfold, I began to wonder, why exactly do we tend to admire large-scale business people? They're almost always up to no good. The Founder is the story of an insanely lucrative theft. The only thing Ray Kroc found was 2 guys dedicated to quality whose innovations he swiped. Thank goodness there was no Twitter when he was alive.
Now, speaking of a license to print money, re-released in France this week is a stylish tale of counterfeiting, To Live and Die in L.A. Tell us more.
Well, more often than not, William Friedkin is an excellent filmic storyteller. He made The French Connection and The Exorcist. This movie from 1985 is smart and consistently thrilling. Now, The French Connection, you may remember, boasted a spectacular chase scene in New York City. This movie boasts an astonishing chase scene on the Los Angeles freeway system. Now, I can't drive, but even I am aware that you are not supposed to go in the wrong direction at top speed on a major thoroughfare. This is real edge-of-your-seat stuff. But that chase scene caps a real story of human relationships, trust and ambition, obsession and betrayal. In short, a real movie. It's about a counterfeiter, played by Willem Dafoe, and the two Secret Service agents determined to bust him. Now, to do that, the law enforcement guys need a big sum of money, more than they're authorized by the government to get. So what do? They steal the money they need to lure the guy into a trap from somebody else. Nothing goes according to plan. I have to say, counterfeiting, forging money, making your own banknotes, that's a crime that makes sense, because instead of stealing stuff, which is risky, and then selling it for a fraction of its worth, you just make funny money and fob it off as real. Over $1 million of counterfeit money was in fact made for the film, but deliberately with mistakes inserted, so it couldn't really be used. But allegedly, apparently, the child of one of the crew members got some of it, went to a candy store, tried to use it, was busted. He couldn't buy candy with it. Like The Founder, this is about ways of doing business, and that makes it a quintessential American story. It has a punchline that was incredibly daring 30 years ago, and I think it still holds up.
Well, that's it for this edition. We'll leave you with a quick look at To Live or Die in L.A. Thank you so much, Lisa, for your insight and your jokes. We look forward to hearing your take on the latest film releases next week. Be sure to visit our website. We're also on Twitter and Facebook. More news coming up on France 24. Do stay with us.
I'm gonna bag Rick Masters.
We got a chance to make him on a hand-to-hand buy.
You can't come up with the front money. You're not for real.
You're not the first agents to get next to Masters.
You're not wired, are you?